Welcome to a self-published author's diary. I am Elodie Novodatsky. I write about first time, second chances, things that scare the crap out of me, and things that make me laugh out loud. I'll be speaking with you and sharing my adventures in self-publishing, the behind the scenes of writing, and the business side of it. And before we get started today, a small message from our sponsor, Anchor. Thanks for listening. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. I don't know when you're listening to this. First, before I start, I wanted to say thank you. Thank you to everyone who's listening. I was checking the world map on Anchor, and it seems I have listeners from around the globe, and I am just so grateful you're taking time out of your day to listen to my self-published author's diary. And yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. If you have a second, don't hesitate to leave a review so that more of you can find this podcast. And yeah, today I am going to be speaking a little bit about what I've done this week. I was talking last week about doing, one thing per day to help my royalties, and I've continued in the same trajectory. I'm also going to be talking a little bit about realizing where I am, in a way, on my path. It sounds weird to say that, but when it comes to writing and when it comes to being an indie author and when it comes to self-publishing, a little realization that I had. And then about a dream that I had last night about writing and self-publishing and being an indie author. So when it comes to helping my royalties right now, I am seeing the first fruits of putting A Summer Like No Other in German for free on all e-retailers. I'm starting to get downloads from In dieser meinem Sommer, and I'm starting to see more people buying Eine zweite Chance, which is always second best in German. So that means that I'm going to be waiting a little bit longer to see if this book will develop like a trajectory of its own, because A Summer Like No Other in English, basically I still get thousands of free downloads per month. I'm not doing anything for that book. I reiterated, I'm not doing any ads. I'm not doing any free Booksy or BookBubs or anything. That book has, I've done free Booksies in the past, which is, if you don't know what free Booksy is, it's with written, I think it's written word media or written media. And it's a service that you pay a certain amount and then they send it to their readers' newsletter. It's pretty much the same as BookBub, but it's not as wide in terms of audience. And when I'm speaking about wide right now, I'm not talking about Kindle Unlimited versus being available on all e-retailers. I'm really talking about the size of the audience. So it's very interesting to me that this book, A Summer Like No Other, continues to see downloads and is regularly ranked in the top 3 young adult romance novels. And I still get emails from readers and I still get reviews. It has 140 reviews on iTunes and it has 173 reviews on Amazon. And of course, it helps drive sales to always second best. And again, this is what I'm trying to do with other languages. Right now, I'm starting with German, and then I will do French next. I will change the back end so that I can get more reviews and more newsletter subscribers and more all of that. And this is, I think, going pretty well. Another thing that I've done was changing the prices, and I am currently running a free promotion on Für mich, für mich not. So Für mich, für mich not is available on Kindle and Kindle Unlimited. It's also available as paperback and as audiobook. At the end of this episode, I will put the retail sample of the audiobook, which is narrated by Megan Carter. So today, tomorrow, and Saturday, Fear Me, Fear Me Not is available for free. And again, having a book available for free is to drive sales to the next book. It's to also gain more readers, all of that. To do that, to spread the word on that one, I am not running any ads either. I am not spending any money. I have decided that I might do that for the next free Fear Me, Fear Me Not promotion. I have 5 free days as part of KDP Select that I can use, and I can schedule, free downloads for Fear Me, Fear Me Not. And right now I'm only doing, and only by only, it still requires a lot of time, but in terms of money that I'm spending, it's not, it's zero. I should not say zero because I'm using Canva and BookBrush to do graphics, and I do pay for this yearly and monthly. So it's not zero in terms of doing Canvas, it's zero in terms of actual promotion. I've done an Instagram video, an Instagram reel that I worked on Canva, and I added in the background for the audio, I added part of the audiobook. So I'm not on the camera, I'm not doing anything, and I don't mind being on the camera for doing certain promotions. That's perfectly fine. I also don't mind doing the pointing thing. Sometimes I actually have fun with it, because you see those articles of how to be on TikTok without pointing and dancing. I don't mind pointing. And the dancing part, I wouldn't mind either. I think as long as I can have fun with it, I don't mind it. But right now for this particular one, it's just pictures of my books and of the text that Megan reads. And then at the end of the Instagram and TikTok video, I have something that says free book and audiobook also available. And in terms of hashtag, on Instagram, I've used Audible, audiobooks, thriller books, Kindle Unlimited. So I've used a wide range of hashtags. And right now, as I'm recording this video, it's sitting at about 900 views. On TikTok, it hasn't been viewed a lot yet. My TikTok sometimes, it takes a while for my videos to start being viewed. But then once it does, it really depends on the TikToks. I haven't gone viral with any of my books being on Instagram or TikTok, but I do think that it helps name recognition, and it also helps possibly some of my books, especially right now because the ebook is free. And for Audible, if people have 1 credit that's sitting and they don't know what to do with it, or if they want to do a tryout with Audible, which you can also do for free, you can try out Audible for free, then people sometimes can also download that book. And if they use a link that I provide, and I'll provide those links also in the episode's description, but I get, if they try something and they stay for maybe, I think 3 months, then I get a bounty, I get some incentive for trying to get new listeners onto Audible. So this is something that I'm doing today, and I will continue doing tomorrow. And I will keep you updated on how that works, if I have seen a lot of read through, if I got more maybe pages read as well afterwards. It's just going to be interesting to see where this free promotion gets me. The other thing that I've done this week was to review the second part of the translation of The Leftover Bride in French, and I sent it back to my translator. So this is something that I've gone through. I answered some questions that she had. I did all of that. And I have started to format the Asama Like No Other in English Portuguese. And I sent the first couple of pages to my Portuguese translator to try to see if there would be a lot of changes needed, see what shape the text is in, and then work on finalizing the Asama Like No Other. I'm not going to say it in Portuguese, but the Portuguese version of that, the bilingual version. And then also publish the Portuguese version of Asama Like No Other and the Portuguese version of Always Second Best. I already have the texts translated. I just need to make sure that the text is good. And I had gotten those texts translated more than 5 years ago on BabbleCube. I also put Miss Me, Miss Me Not up for pre-order today. I reworked the ending of The Leftover Bride, the epilogue, I've also shared already that particular epilogue with my Facebook's reader group, and I will also be sharing that epilogue with my newsletter subscribers so that they have access to it. I'm going to be updating the book in the coming days, either today or tomorrow, and I will explain why in a few coming episodes. Probably not next week, but coming up. Another topic that I wanted to talk about today was regarding knowing or realizing, or I've talked about, how I'm preparing to have one of my books become read by a lot of readers. And so I want to have everything ready for the day that comes. But then as author, as human being, and it's not related to the New York Times article called Who is the Bad Art Friend? If you have not read it, there's also a lot of more, there's a lot of additional information online, on Twitter, in other, in blogs and everything. It's just, you can go down a rabbit hole with that particular story, but this is not what I'm talking about right now. I am talking about the fact that, when you're an author, sometimes you hear a lot of eyes on your own paper, do not compare yourself to the successes of people who are also authors, people who may have started at the same time as you, or later, or earlier. Just, don't compare. At the same time, though, I think it's important sometimes to look at what people are doing and see what's working. Because if it's working for them, it might not necessarily work for you, but it could be something to try out. And then another thing also is that you're not comparing apple to apple. So I had that realization again this week, because I was thinking, and maybe a bit hard on myself about the fact that I had not reached a certain level of success, monetary success, because I consider myself very successful when it comes to, my readers loving my book, to getting emails from readers telling me my books has made them smile. Some saying that, it's one of the best books they've ever read. And I've heard that about each of my book. And also those emails that I got when I was writing YA, and I will write more YA in the future, but how I helped people become passionate about reading. This is a wonderful success. I do want monetary success as well. I am talking about having a living wage from my writing. This is really my goal, is to at least have a living wage with my writing. Anything on top would be a wonderful bonus, but I'm currently not there. I'm not currently making a living wage out of my writing. I've been, very transparent about that. And yesterday or 2 days ago, I was just thinking I was looking at authors' books and how well those books are going. And I'm thinking why am I not there? What am I doing wrong? What is wrong with my writing? What is wrong with my marketing? What am I not doing right? And there are a few things. I cannot compare 7 books to way more than 7 books. I cannot compare the publication schedule that I have. I cannot compare how much work authors put into learning how to write to market, into publishing. I cannot compare my own work on that because I have not done as much for a lot of different reasons, but still, the end result is that authors published a lot more books. Writing is very addictive, and it's just I was just thinking, I need to make sure that I do not get sucked into a spiral of why not me, and just work towards becoming at least a third as successful, because this is things that I can do. I have currently 7 full-length novels out in any given language. I'm only focusing on 2 languages. I'm only focusing on English and French. And in those 2 languages, I cannot reach a certain amount of success as an indie author I should not say cannot, because some people will prove me wrong and say, well, that author, first of all, we do not know what every author has in terms of pen names, what they've done before, what path they have taken. Not everybody is or has to be transparent about, the journey they've taken. And as I admire the career of certain authors, I can learn also from those authors' careers. And this is something when I sometimes hear, eyes on your own paper. Yes. But at the same time, if somebody, before the big exam of letting your book out, and then the follow-up exam about how to deal with the books when they're out, if you can learn from other people, and a lot of authors also share what works for them, what has not worked for them, but you can also see a little bit about what marketing strategies certain authors have taken and what may work for them. And I think it's just important to remember before, and I'm saying that to myself, so the you in this is really me, but if you can learn from that as well, I'm happy to share my struggles sometimes with that particular topic, is that you are more successful than somebody else, and somebody else is more successful than you. Like, in the eyes of another author who's looking at your career, who's looking at the books you have written, or the books you're almost finishing writing, or the book you're thinking about writing, or the book you started writing, or the books you've published, or the list that you've achieved, or the honor that you have had, or there's always going to be a moment in your writing path where you are going to be ahead of somebody else in their eyes. And yet in your own eyes, you're going to be thinking that, well, you did not achieve this, and you didn't achieve that, and that other author did. And then in that case, sometimes you have to check, like, you have to also be honest with yourself about, okay, what have that author done that I have not? And in that particular case, it's writing something that I believe they love, and that is also to market, and learn, so much learning, and so much writing, and so much revising, and so many hours, and so many everything. Like, what did the authors do that achieved what you wanted to achieve, or that you think you wanted to achieve? So yeah, and that's just, once you've looked at what those authors have done and what you want your trajectory and your path to be, it's again thinking about what you want to achieve. And it's also realizing that there might always be, right? If you play the comparing game, there will always be people in a different step compared to where you are. All that to say that this is something that I've realized again last couple of days, when I was finding myself not in a funk, but kind of in a way thinking and wondering, like, okay, but I did not reach that, and I don't have that yet. And then it's always remembering and reminding myself that, yeah, I know. That's why I am following every step possible to reach a certain goal of mine. And this is not an overnight thing. Those authors I'm talking about, most of them, again, did not reach that overnight. And it's just important to remember. And at the same time, I can dream. So yesterday, my husband told me this morning, so that's Thursday, that I had a smile when he got up. I was smiling in my sleep. And I remember dreaming that I was calling him and telling him that, oh, my book just released, and it's in the top 10 in America, and it's in the top 10. And I had so many reviews. I have 1,000 something reviews and blah, blah, blah. And I was just super excited. And then I would enjoy that moment. And then nobody says that then in 3 weeks from then, I would not be like, how do I recreate that again? And that's the point too, right? That enjoying every step of the way, I do that. I do enjoy the steps. It's just once the steps are gone and those wild dreams that I had may not have come to fruition, then I have to rein myself back in the sense of, okay, so those things did not happen yet. I am working towards them happening. I am doing what I need for me to be ready when that moment happens. And then along the way, I continue to find ways to diversify my earnings and my income and everything else with writing, with learning new skills. I'm currently learning how to code. So that's fun. And not only is that fun, I might be able to get a part-time job or a job with it at some point. And in 2 books in the Swans Cove series, Roisin codes. So that will be very helpful to know a bit more about all of that before I start writing that particular story. So this is all just, I guess, just a reminder that, keeping our eyes on our own copy, on our own paper, does not necessarily mean to not look at and celebrate too, right? Because I am also, and that's like the dichotomy of everything. Sometimes I get in a funk, but at the same time, I am celebrating those authors' successes. I am happy for those authors. It's like those emotions can coexist. You can be happy for the success of others and also wanting to reach that kind of success. Like writing is not, I've heard before, that writing is not a pie. Or success is not a pie. Is that expression? Like there is some for everyone or something. And yeah, I know it might be very naive to say like this, but it's just one of those things that it's not because several authors are successful that you will not be successful yourself. And then it's always about setting goals and being realistic and not being afraid to reach for the stars while keeping your feet on the ground. I am full of images right now. But right, you should reach for the stars and keep your feet on the ground, right? Is that what it is? And as I've mentioned at the beginning of this episode, here's a sample from the Fear Me, Fear Me Not audiobook narrated by Megan Carter.
Chapter 1. Fear. There's something about fear. It's intoxicating. The helplessness they feel, the adrenaline and need and wants it unleashes. Fear rights the wrongs. Fear is power. And for once, I have all the power. They're never going to save them. They're never going to catch me. They're never going to understand. Chapter 2. Aaron. Here's what we all know. Sometime this week or the next or the one after that, we will find another dead girl. Every year a girl disappears, and every year she's found dead with an angel wing carved into her cheek. And this year is no different. Another girl disappeared. Rachel Stein, former cheerleading captain, left her home last Saturday and no one has heard from her since. Despite the entire town searching every corner and her family's pleas and all the psychics inundating the town claiming to know where she is, she hasn't been found. Everyone holds on to the hope that she's safe. Some rumor spread that she ran away, that the killer hasn't found his next victim yet, that he's still on the hunt. Come on, girls, we need to do this. Shauna, our cheer captain, sounds like she's trying to convince herself more than us. She smooths her skirt, checks her cell phone again before dropping it behind her. For Rachel! This time her voice doesn't falter. Her dark hair is tucked into her ponytail and it bounces as she jumps, warming up. Her smile reveals the bronze glow of her cheeks, but her dark brown skin isn't as flawless as in the school pictures. The circles under her eyes are more pronounced. She and Rachel were very good friends, and she's been fighting tears ever since we got to the stadium. Rachel prepared Shauna to become captain. She trained with her and took her under her wing when Shauna was a freshman and Rachel a sophomore. Let's go! Shauna struts to the front. We take our usual positions for the first routine, waiting for the football team to enter the field. The spotlights brighten the entire stadium, but they do a pretty poor job of hiding the fear rippling through the crowd. The smell of hot dogs wafts in the air, reminiscent of happier and carefree times, but the kids' laughter isn't as loud as usual. Parents keep a trained eye on them, not entirely relaxed. If it weren't for football, most people would have stayed at home. If it weren't for football, Gavert City would be a ghost town the entire month of September. If it weren't for football, we might all be at the lake, pretending nothing bad can happen to us while we're all scared shitless. Despite the adrenaline coursing through the crowd's veins at the thought of winning another game, of snatching another state title, we can't ignore the heaviness settling in the air. People walk faster. They whisper more often. They spy on one another and make sure their doors are locked. Some people think they can play heroes. They organize their own neighborhood watch. They institute curfews. Curfews that are not respected. After school, some students throw face the killer parties. Saturday nights are spent telling scary stories and drinking or partying it up until we forget reality. Saturday nights are full of bravado and fuck you attitude. They're there to make it seem like we're eternal. But every year, a few weeks before the homecoming queen and king are crowned, it all changes.
If you want to listen to the full audiobook, it's already available on iTunes, on Amazon, on Audible. It's only one credit, I think, on Audible. And if you would like to try Audible for free, as I've mentioned also at the beginning of the episode, you can do so. I have some links, some affiliate links in this episode's description. So this was today's episode. I will talk to you very soon. I will be next week and in 2 weeks. It will either be a very short episode or I will publish some more chapters of one of my audiobooks. Don't hesitate to rate and review. That's very, very helpful. To all writers out there, happy writing, and to everybody, happy reading.